welcome back to my show. As you all know, normally every time I say this with such enthusiasm, there's always a guest. And that is the case this time too, but this time I switched things up. This time, instead of bringing in an author or an illustrator, I've brought in a different kind of writer. I didn't bring an author, I didn't bring an illustrator, I brought in a singer-songwriter. So please welcome Sophia Fracassi. Hi Sophia, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for taking out some time to be on the show today.
It's no problem at all. It's my pleasure.
So please introduce yourself and your latest song and maybe sing like a few lines from it.
Okay, so I'm Sophia Fracassi. I'm 19 years old. I'm a singer-songwriter from Ontario, Canada. My newest song that came out is actually a cover of a song by Dolly Parton. It's called Here You Come Again, and it goes a little bit like, here you come again, looking better than a body has a right to.
That sounds amazing. So everyone here who's a Dolly Parton fan, please check out that song. And if you aren't, Sophia has many amazing songs which is her own and not a cover, so you can definitely check those out. I definitely recommend the song called Eyeline and so many other great songs she's written. I've been listening to that song on loop, so hopefully you do the same thing. I'll be linking Sophia's website and where you can find her music and possibly even see her new songs that she releases on down the road. So Sophia, what inspired you to start singing?
So I started singing when I was a baby. So I've always been singing, and then I started taking singing lessons when I was around 5 years old. So I've been singing for most of my life, and then I started writing music when I was around 9 years old. I wrote my first song, and then kept writing. It just never stopped. And here I am.
That's awesome. So everyone out there who are singer-songwriters or want to be singer-songwriters, I guess that's the trick. Just try starting young, or if you cannot and you're starting now, it doesn't matter, because after all, singing, songwriting, this is like, it's not something you're born with, something you kind of like learn along the way. So, Sophia, who are your singing icons? Like, who really like inspired you to do like? I mean, yeah, you said that you started as a baby, but who are your singing icons? Like, who do you really get inspired from?
That's a great question. I actually really love, I can use Dolly Parton as an example. Somebody that started writing music and recording, and she wrote not just for her own music, but she wrote for other artists as well. And she kind of did it before a lot of other people did it. So she sort of was a trailblazer and like made a path for people like me to feel like that's something that they could do with their life. So I really admire her and Joni Mitchell, all kind of like the great classic singer-songwriters.
That's actually quite fantastic. I think most singer-songwriters from the older generations are the ones not from the 2000s. Particularly, they have a lot of different styles that can really be used and modernized. Like, I know that Dolly Parton is still singing, in fact, and that she has many great songs. Like, she's done many collabs with rap singers, and she has done like some of her classics like 925 has been remastered and done by pentatonics or a cappella groups and things. So in that sense, like, just because they're old songs, you can still modernize them. I mean, like the song Here You Come Again, the way you sang it like a couple of minutes back was fantastic, and the recorded version too was really like different. Like, you could not tell that it was an old song. You could basically be thinking that's a new song if you've never heard of Dolly Parton music.
Yeah.
That brings me to my next question. So what's your creative process like? Like, how do you write your songs?
I think it's different every single time. I get inspiration from kind of my own life. So like the things that I go through, the experience I have, the people that I meet, and then I kind of, when I'm feeling something really deeply, and sometimes when I'm just, thinking about something, I'll start writing about it, and sometimes it'll, just be one line, sometimes it'll turn into a whole song, but it's different every time. Sometimes the melody comes first, sometimes the lyric comes first. I've written whole songs in like the span of like 10 minutes before, so it just depends on how I'm feeling.
It's quite fascinating, actually. I think, again, in regular writing as well, is like book writing, story writing. It's the same way, like you kind of just have ideas flowing at random moments in life, sometimes in the shower, sometimes while you're at work. So basically, like songwriting and regular book writing, story writing is not too different, because in a way, singing is basically a story. You're telling a story through your voice, basically. That's the only difference.
Yeah, you've got it right.
So I feel like just singing is very magical. For those of you who do not know this, or follow me on Instagram, you guys probably do not know this about me, but I love singing too, and I've tried starting to like songwrite a little, trying my hand at it. And for those of you interested in doing things like that, I would recommend, like, at first, if you're starting, you could try using background tracks, like songwriting tracks online, which are free for you to use, and you could try doing that. That's actually what I've been doing.
It's a great way to start.
That actually got me to the next question for you, which is that songwriting for you, you said that you started at the age of 9. So was it someone who told you to really do this, or did it just be like, I want to song right now?
This is great that we were talking about story writing and everything like that too. Before I wrote songs, I wrote stories. So I loved doing that kind of writing. I still do. I focus more on songwriting now because that's what I'm doing as a career. But I loved writing so much that it just kind of overflowed into music, because I loved writing so much, and then I also loved music. And obviously, when you combine the two, it kind of turns into songwriting. And so I don't really think anyone told me necessarily that was something I should try, even though everyone was very encouraging. It was kind of just a lot of feelings and emotions that I had that turned into an idea. Even at only being 9 years old, you have a lot of feelings when you're a kid. and it turned into my first song. That was very exciting for that to happen, and to then go on, and I performed it a couple different places, which was really fun, and everyone was very encouraging and told me to keep writing music after that. But the first one, I think I just did on my own.
That actually is quite fascinating too, because like I know that like in writing, most of the time your first draft doesn't end up being as great as you think. So based on that, how many drafts or how many times have you had to rewrite your song until it got to the point where it's good enough to actually put out?
That's a great question. I don't know if anyone's ever asked me that before, but I like it. It has depended on the song. So sometimes I'll write a song and I'm like, I don't want to touch this again. I love this the way that it is. If someone tries to change it, I'm not going to let them. This is very special to me the way it already is. But then other times I'll write a song and then I'll kind of go through it afterwards, or maybe a couple weeks later I'll revisit it and say, hey, actually maybe this word here could be a little bit different, or this melody could be more interesting, stuff like that. Sometimes I'll write it and bring it and show it to another person, and they'll give me their suggestions, which is always helpful. So it really it's depended. Some songs have gone through like so many different changes, and some songs have stayed very much the same to when I first wrote them.
That's actually quite unique, actually, because it kind of actually reminds me of the way writing works as well. As you said earlier, if you bring music and writing together, it's basically songwriting. But in writing, basically you have beta readers and alpha readers who read through rounds of your work. So I guess in a way, getting feedback in both ways is required, or kind of like advised or recommended. So I see that, like, I remember when I was talking to you over email, it was mainly your manager, I think, who was going back and forth. So how does that work for you? Does it like affect the way you get to communicate with people who are trying to reach you, or?
I have a team that I signed with about 2 years ago. at the end of, so October 2020, during the big COVID disaster, I signed with a record label and a management team. And they've been fantastic. I've had such a wonderful experience with them. I find, as far as communicating with, anyone that wants to get in touch, like you did, via email, I find it helpful to have my team help me to respond to people who want to get in touch. And if there's sometimes been situations where people have emailed or DM'd me, on Instagram, and that way I kind of talk to them directly. But usually when it's email, my team will message them back, but they'll always tell me what's going on, which is nice. It's just kind of nice if I'm super busy to have somebody who can help kind of filter through those and find the gems like you.
That sounds fantastic actually. I just realized you said that you were 19 and you got your record label 2 years ago, so that means 17. So how did school play along? Like, did you have to leave school, continue school, but do homeschooling? How did school work for you?
So I actually was homeschooled for my whole life. So I was already homeschooled when I signed with my record label. So I just finished high school normally, the way I already would have from home. And I guess during COVID, everyone kind of had to switch to online learning anyway. So that was, everyone was homeschooled. And I was like, I've been doing this for years. So that was interesting. It definitely, I had to make sure that I balanced my work as well as my music stuff. So, but it ended up working out fine. I graduated 2 summers ago, and yeah, it's been good.
That's actually quite interesting. So for the people who go to traditional schools and have cannot I know that in homeschooling you kind of have the liberty to choose when you do your work, but I mean you still do it, but you have the liberty, kind of have freedom with how to use your day. So what would your advice be to young songwriters and singers who want to do music and sing and songwrite, but do not really have the time in the day because of regular 8-hour school?
That's a good one. I think if it's something that you are really passionate about and really care about, you'll be able to find the time for it, even when it feels like you're so busy. When you love something that much, you usually try and find every moment that you can to work on it. And if you have to, you can treat it almost like it's a part-time job, and you can say, okay, these days a week, I'm going to schedule 1 hour to work on my songwriting or to work on my writing or something like that. And I find that to be really helpful if your brain works better to schedule it. Otherwise, I think usually, as long as you stay focused on this is something I love and care about, you'll be able to find the time to work on it, even if you're busy.
Actually, quite a great advice to give, just because time management is really something that kind of is just a mixture of you deciding whether or not you want to do something. Kind of like procrastination, right? You could want something badly but procrastinate and think that you do not have the time when you may actually have a lot of time. Or you might have the time but waste it by not using your time properly.
Exactly.
By maybe just thinking about how you want to do something but are not really putting in the work to actually commit and do the work.
Yep, so true. That's good.
So this is my last question for you, and I feel like this is kind of like a tricky question just because it has 2 sides of it. You could basically answer however you want. So do you feel like you chose to sing or it chose you?
A good one. In a way, I would say first it chose me, and then I had to choose it. I think it was something that was always a part of me. Again, kind of how I mentioned, I've been singing since before I could even remember that I was doing it. So it's definitely something I always loved, and that was just kind of built in me and how I was made to just love it and want to do it. But as time goes on and life happens and you get older and you're busier and everything, that's kind of where it has to become a choice to say, okay, is this something that I care enough about to devote a lot of time to and continue pursuing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I think first it chose me, and then I chose it back.
It's actually an awesome answer. Normally I would ask this kind of question to the authors I have on, but never got the chance to, because like I feel like this question, it's like you could basically ask this question to any creative person or basically any profession. Even for a person who's a teacher or anyone else, you could basically ask them, do you feel like teaching chose you, or you chose to teach? Basically, you could ask it wherever. So anyways, thank you so much for being on the show with me and having such a great conversation.
Thank you so much. This was a pleasure.
Yeah, mine as well. So everyone who is listening to this episode, don't forget that I'll be putting up the links to Sophia's website in the show notes, as well as her website has all her music in it. You can click on whichever, I think it's on all listening platforms. I personally listen to her songs on Spotify, but you can find it on YouTube, and you can find it on all your other listening platforms. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you all next time.